All right, now here is the part of the process where most singers and most producers will just jump right into recording. Like, okay, I've got everything set up, my DAW session, everything's good to go. Now let's just jump right in and record it. But the problem with that is you are setting yourself up to make a critical error that could just completely make you have to redo the vocal. And this is especially frustrating if you are feeling like you have a good voice day, like you're hitting the notes, you've got good energy, things are flowing. And then it's the worst thing in the world if you wake up the next day and realize you were clipping, or that there was something wrong with the mic placement, or there was something wrong with the DAW and there's a bunch of weird noises happening. Just there's just a plethora of things that can go wrong. And so we want to make sure that we check everything off and we want to avoid potential mistakes. This is why, in the aviation industry, when they fly airplanes, everything is checklist. It's because that's the best way to avoid mistakes and to make sure things don't go wrong, especially obvious things. So this is what I'm going to walk you through now, just a 7-step checklist for you to check off and make sure that everything's taken care of before you actually jump in and get that vocal recorded. Now, the first 3 are actually not directly connected to the technical aspects of vocal recording and I'll walk you through those first 3, and then there are a total of 7, and we'll get to all of them. But the first one now that I'm going to talk about very quickly, the first box to check off of this checklist is get a full night's sleep. Sleep is incredibly important for your voice. And of course, there are exceptions. Of course, you will have days where you barely slept the night before, but your voice still feels great. By all means, you can record. But I'm speaking generally here. Generally speaking, your voice is going to be better with a full night's sleep. So that is box number 1. Check that off. Make sure you are well rested as you're going in to get the best vocal recording possible. Box number 2 you want to check is avoid caffeinated and sugary beverages. Now, I'm giving you this isn't even really a rule. This is just a recommendation or just something for you to be aware of, because it would be hypocritical for me to make this a staunch rule that you have to follow, because I don't necessarily follow this rule, especially when it comes to caffeine. I'm a huge coffee drinker, so even if it's a vocal day, I'm probably going to drink 2 cups of coffee that day regardless. So I'll find a way to get through it, because that's just how much I love coffee. However, there are cases there are days where coffee and especially sugary drinks can affect your voice in quite a negative way. And so that can take away from what might otherwise be a much better vocal recording. So these are all things to at least be aware of. And if you don't eliminate, at least minimize how much of it you're consuming, right? So it is, generally speaking, it's just good behavior to avoid beverages like coffee, alcohol as well, because it's very dehydrating, sugary drinks as well, and really all of these things are quite dehydrating. So that's box number 2 to check off. Box number 3 is drink plenty of water in the preceding hours. This is incredibly important. Not only is it important for your voice to stay hydrated, but it's especially important because once you are dehydrated, so if you start your vocal session and your voice starts to become really scratchy and dry and coarse, the problem with that is it's kind of too late at that point. And it's going to take a few hours for your body to truly become hydrated again. And so just drinking a bunch of water in that moment isn't actually going to fix it in that moment, because it takes time for you to actually get rehydrated. So make sure that you drink plenty of water beforehand. Otherwise, if you start recording and you are dehydrated and your voice starts to act up on you, it's kind of too late already. So it's very important. Box number 4. Now we're actually diving into the more technical aspects and making sure everything's in its proper place and set up correctly. So box number 4 to check off is simply to check the mic placement. So we've already talked about this here in module 2. So just if you want a refresher, just go watch that video and just make sure that the mic is set up in a good place in the room. Make sure that you aren't eating the mic too much. Make sure that you are about 6 to 12 inches away. Make sure that you are aiming directly for the center of the microphone. Don't be, looking away from the mic to read the lyrics or anything like that. Just be very cognizant and aware of what is happening in terms of mic placement, and then check that off the list. Box number 5, you want to check the input gain on the interface to make sure that you are not clipping. I've mentioned this multiple times already. This is so important. Do not clip. So make sure on your whatever audio interface you're using that you turn down the input gain so that you don't clip. You can record at a very low volume and that's completely okay. You can always turn it up in your DAW. But what you can't do is turn down a clipped audio signal. That distortion is printed, that distortion, that unpleasant distortion is gonna stay there and it's not gonna go away. So please check, make sure that your interface input gain level is lower than maybe you even generally do. Just turn the thing down. It's okay if you record in at a very low level. And then number 6 is do a test take. Do a test run and make sure everything is set up correctly with your DAW and your recording gear and everything like that. This is not an official take. Just hit record in your DAW, record a part of the song, and then go grab your headphones and listen intently to what you just recorded to make sure there's no weird things happening, to make sure there's no distortion, to make sure there's no weird noises going on or some static noises going on. You just want to make sure that the vocal sounds clean and sounds good the way that it's supposed to. And then finally, number 7, and I'll probably talk about this or I'll probably delve into this when I actually start to record the vocal, and that is to use the magic exercise to warm up and to get the blood flowing. So I've already talked about the magic exercise. That's one of the things we talked about in module 1 in my 5 fundamentals for singing, and it is fundamental number 2, and that is the magic exercise. So all this is you take the melody of the song you're recording and you replace the lyrics with an exercise. So that could be, in this case, beep, 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 beep. So in that case, I'm using B. One of my favorite ones is NG. So, So you're warming up your voice this way, but what you're also doing is you are warming up your voice specifically for your song. Because in the moment when you are in recording day, when you are recording your specific song, that is the only song that matters. So if you can get a really good take for that song, then you want to just focus solely on setting up your voice to maximize your takes for that particular song. And that's why this exercise is so cool. So if you want to a refresher on this, again, go back to module 1, go to my 5 fundamentals for singing, and you'll find the magic exercise video there. So there you go. That is the 7-step checklist for vocal recording day. This stuff is really important. You need to make sure that you can think of this as a train track. Think of a track that is laid out. If you're trying to go take a train from point A to point B with no track, you are going to crash. It's not going to work. So you need to make sure that the track is actually laid before you go and record, in this case, the vocals. Right? So make sure that everything is in a good place. Make sure that nothing bad is happening in terms of the technical aspects. Make sure that the vocal sounds clean, and make sure that you're setting yourself up for the best vocal take possible. And that is why you want to follow this 7-step checklist. Okay? So now it is time to actually dive in and record the vocal. I'm going to walk you through it, and you're going to be able to see and watch this unfold because I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. So let's dive into that.